Lawyers, what legal nuke can be used to crush employers who make life hell? Story 1. Received this message from my former employer. Context. I got laid off, as an IT manager, by the last company I worked for, unexpectedly. However, a week or so prior to the layoff, they asked me to ensure all passwords were documented. As such, I used 1Password and trained the general manager at that time on how to use it, per their request. Come to find out, they also laid off that manager some time after me. There have been attempts from my employer to reach out to me via WhatsApp. I just ignored them. They should have the passwords. As to why they do not know about them, negligence. I feel that I have moved on, and I feel that I do not owe them anything. Not a good company to work at. I felt used there. For all they know, I forgot the password. I denied a severance from them for a reason. Their conditions at the time were that if I accepted the severance, I would continue to provide them with up to a certain amount of technical support via email or phone call. I denied that, in writing and signed. I took my own copy as well. Here is the text message the employer sent me. Hi, I've reached out regarding the PIN, password for the company computer you were using. This device is company property, and I need access to it immediately to continue business operations. If I do not receive the PIN, I will be forced to proceed with a formal legal request to recover access. I'm asking for your cooperation to avoid unnecessary escalation. Thank you. Anyway, this message feels like a soft threat of sorts. Perhaps not. Any advice? Eat it. I told him to reach out to ex-employee, as I turned over all passwords to them per their instructions. Employer said, "You are not answering my question. Why are you being so difficult? What is the PIN to the computer?" Responds. Respond 1. Oh, it's definitely a threat. I don't know what their IT department is like, but every IT department I ever worked for had standard procedures to handle employee separations. The first thing that was done was to disable every account and change the passwords. Their former manager would be given access to determine if anything needed to be saved. Later, one last review would be done, and the former employee's manager would sign off on removing everything. If your former employer has anything like that in place, then it doesn't matter if you remember your passwords or not. Respond 2. Don't you think that they reached out to the person that got fired after you got fired? If they are reaching out to you, it's because that person is also not replying to them and ignoring them. You complied with what they wanted. If that person didn't give them the information you left behind, that's their problem, not yours. You have nothing to worry about. Nothing. Let them do whatever they want to do. Then you can countersue them for filing a frivolous lawsuit, if it even gets to this level, which I highly doubt, because it will be a legal expense that they know very well will go nowhere. You don't owe them anything. Respond 3. That's beyond stupid. Their internal IT should have tools to reset passwords on devices and log in as system admins, with full admin rights to all files and folders. The fact they're not going to their tech support is beyond dumb. I'd ignore all of it until they file suit. The fact they expected passwords to be shared among users is alarming. Beyond dumb. That they're bypassing their own IT is a red flag for me. They may be up to no good and trying to pin something on you. Also tell them you no longer know the passwords. You turned over control to the general manager. They were out of your control, and if the GM did their job right, those passwords didn't survive the day when you left the firm. Respond 4. Well, they can use their IT powers to reset the password to your computer, but based on the bizarre story you just told, I'd guess they have no Active Directory, no Azure policies, and trash infrastructure. It should be as simple as resetting the password in Active Directory and logging in. However, any IT person worth their salt knows that generally, under 99.9% of circumstances, it's a huge no-no to log in as someone else, and if data is needed, an admin can pull the data and put it on a file share for whoever needs to review the documents. 1Password and IT are my job. This is awful. I'm sorry you're going through this. Also, as someone who writes and implements disaster recovery and business continuity plans, this is all on them. They should have planned for this. Story 2. Fired from my job after putting in my 2 weeks, and boss is demanding my property in exchange for paycheck. Hi everyone. Up until 2 weeks ago, I was working for a franchise for 2.5 years as a manager. Due to scheduling conflicts with my schooling, I decided to find a different job. I put in my 2 weeks' notice on June 5th, and everything seemed fine. I posted one shift for grabs because I needed that day for a mandatory substance screening for my new position. This was the only time I had ever done that while I worked there. Then, on the 11th, I went into work and found the owner there. He immediately started berating me and fired me. I remained civil and just said okay, but he continued to get more aggressive and insult me. He then stated that he would not give me my final paycheck until I returned my manager shirts. The problem is that I paid for those shirts 100% and have the receipts. In my eyes, he has no claim to them, and withholding my earned money for my property seems unfair. I'm unsure of what to do in this situation or if there's anything I can do. Any advice would be appreciated. Thanks. Edit. The shirts were polos and were overpriced because they were sold by the franchise, which is why I don't want to give them to him. They have my name on them. Additionally, there was no valid reason for my termination, yet they are telling everyone that I kept putting my shifts up for grabs and that I was a poor worker. I meant to mention this earlier, but there has been so much drama that I forgot. Responds. Respond 1. First thing you should do is go back to your pay stubs from when you bought the shirts and ensure that you were not reimbursed for the shirts. They're not allowed to withhold your final check for any reason, absent a court order or something you agreed to, but they could, theoretically, take you to court for the shirts. In Michigan, your final paycheck is due on the next regularly scheduled payday for the period in which the termination occurs. If we haven't passed the scheduled payday, you should sit tight and see if they pay you. If you've already passed that date, or if they eventually miss the payday, then you should file a wage claim with the Michigan Department of Labor, Economic Opportunity. There's a possibility you could get paid a penalty if you have to file a wage claim. Respond 2. You've been fired. Apply for unemployment. Sure, it might be only a week, but you are entitled for that in most states. Otherwise, if your regularly scheduled paycheck is late, open a claim with the Department of Labor. There is basically nothing you would have that would prevent you from getting that last check. Any outstanding items have to be a different process. Respond 3. Steps to take. 1. Inform the owner your lawyer advised you he has 24 hours to get you your last paycheck, or you'll report wage theft to the Department of Labor, and the ensuing lawsuit will cost him more than it's worth to fight. 2. Make copies of shirt receipts, hand the owner said copies of receipts, and tell him you'll be happy to sell him those shirts unwashed for $500 each. It would be worth it to him because they have your scent, so if he wears them as is, his wife and pets will actually treat him like they love him. Seriously, if you can afford it, just report him and wait. If not, you can try the threat of report in like 2 days if he doesn't pay, but my guess is he won't pay, and you'll just end up reporting anyways. Respond 4. Quit a bad job a while ago that also made you buy and wear company-branded clothes. There was this homeless person who hung out near the store, so I gave him the shirts, which he agreed to immediately change into. When the manager saw, he blew a gasket and called the police. I stuck around to let them know I had given them to him, so the police just left. Since it's on my way to my new job, I periodically drop some food off for the guy, and he keeps wearing them. They have gotten pretty ratty by now. Story 3. How is it legal for a law firm to keep garnishing my wages when they can't even prove it's me? And I live in a different state. I've been getting money taken from my checks every week from a garnishment that was filed in East Baton Rouge Parish, Louisiana, where I lived as a minor, by Discover and this law firm. I don't even live there. I live in Michigan. I've never been summoned, never received any court notice, and I only found out when ADP emailed me randomly saying my wages would be garnished. I've called ADP. I've called the law firm. ADP told me I need to get a court order to stop the garnishment, but when I called the law firm, they said they can't do anything and that even now they can't even speak to me and that I have to wait for the investigation, which could take up to a month. Meanwhile, they keep taking money from me every single week. The craziest part is the file they have is for someone with the same name as me, but a senior. I'm only 21 years old. I only opened my first credit cards last year. I've filed for identity theft for the cards that weren't mine. They have the wrong address on file. It's clearly a mistaken identity, and they even admitted they can't find me in their system. but they're still taking my money while they look into it. How is this even legal? How can they keep taking money when they haven't proved it's actually me? No court summons, no due process, and I'm in a completely different state. Edit. Additional info. The garnishment amount is between 4,000 and 5,000. I can't remember the exact amount, but it's definitely at least 4,000. I've contacted corporate HR 2 or 3 times now, and it's almost impossible to reach the garnishment department. They're either on break for hours so the line hangs up, or I get stuck in this automated loop that always takes me to ADP. The law firm refuses to talk to me since it's under investigation, so they claim they're not allowed to discuss anything with me. I'm also sure the date of birth doesn't match. I can't recall their exact words, but they basically said the person they have isn't the same age as me. Responds. Respond 1. Ask the clerk for the court order or debt judgment rendered against name and year. The garnishment won't be on file at the clerk's office. The debt judgment will have more information relative to the identity of this person. Most clerks want a case number. You won't have that. You'll have to submit a record request for research, which may cost you some money. Or, I'm pretty sure East Baton Rouge clerk has an online database for civil records, 25 a day access approx. If you can use Reddit, you can navigate the database to find the order. The order may have date of birth, will likely have address associated with service, and full name. Most people have more than one debt judgment, so look for more than just the one for this person. Each judgment might have different identifying information you can use. Gather as much identifying information as you can from this person. In Louisiana, you can do an affidavit of identity, basically a document saying that you are legally the person named X, with Y date of birth, at residence. I'm sure Michigan has similar. You might need a lawyer or a notary to create the document. Send the affidavit of identity and the judgments you find to the law office via certified mail with a letter saying what the documents show, how much money, garnishments, you expect to receive in damages as repayment, or you will escalate to the Attorney General in Louisiana and Michigan. Give the law office the duration of the next garnishment to confirm the mistaken identity. Carbon copy via certified mail whoever is in charge of payroll at your company as high up the ladder as you can go. Respond 2. I worked in HR payroll a few years ago, and I got a few of those before. I would always have the order and the dollar amount, etc. Shady of a company not to give you a copy of the garnishment or advise you of it. It is their job to help you. I would have placed copies in your HR file immediately to prove what I entered was correct in the payroll system, etc. They must have a copy somewhere so that it is being done properly. It does not happen by magic. I would call corporate HR and corporate payroll every single day and hour until someone calls me back. There is no excuse for this. I am sorry. They have a copy, and if they do not, it could very well be them that messed up. If you work for a large company, is it at all possible that HR might have entered this into the wrong employee's payroll system? I always double-checked myself to make sure I had the right person. Large companies can have people with similar names. You can make mistakes. I would enter then check it. Not a lawyer. Respond 3. If you can climb up the chain from an adjacent role in the same department, general HR over payroll or garnishments, you may be able to get to a supervisor above both. Stay polite, keep to the facts, genuinely ask for help, don't accuse the company or HR. Accusations make people defensive and less likely to help. Try to be genuine when asking for help. Ask for emails. Create a documentation trail that will verify that the company did indeed know of the problem. You informed them. Now, as a side note, you may want to get a lawyer. It's illegal for them to garnish your wages without proper documentation, and you should have been provided a copy. Record each call you've made and who you talked to, how long you were on the phone, etc. You may be able to get more than your wages back for the amount of time they've wasted. Note this could mess with your employment. Respond 4. If this is true, then a big part of your problem is your employer. I did payroll, and am very familiar with wage garnishments. The paperwork your employer received, and they had to have received something to know what to garnish and who to send the garnishments towed, have listed your name, date of birth, address, and social security number. That paperwork would list the total amount owed, and how much to garnish, and how often to send. Some like it every payroll, and some just want it monthly. It's a huge payroll pain, and makes a lot more work for those that process payroll. They should also have a copy that they give to you. The paperwork will inform your employer that you have been sent a copy of this same document. However, they include a copy in case there is an issue with the address. So, if any part of the name is incorrect, the social security number is incorrect, or the date of birth is incorrect, your employer should know that isn't you, and should have contacted the number on the paperwork and let them know they didn't have an employee with those credentials. Your employer should not be garnishing wages if they have paperwork that lists someone who isn't you. They need to call and let them know they will not be garnishing wages because they don't have an employee there that fits the credentials, which they do not. Story 4. Hiring manager refusing to let me decline a job offer. I recently applied for a position within my company but in another state. The hiring manager kept dragging me along for over a month, and I assumed I didn't get the job, so I moved on and applied to other openings. Last week, he calls me out of the blue and says, "We'd like to extend an offer. Would you be interested?" I talked to him for about 5 minutes, verifying my email and other details, and that was it. He said the offer would be emailed later that day, but it didn't show up until Monday. He called and insisted that I sign the offer, even though I asked for a couple of days to look it over. He was adamant that no details of the offer were negotiable until I signed, which I refused. I decided not to take the job based on his aggressiveness. Yesterday he sent me an email saying that I wouldn't be allowed to refuse the offer because I had verbally agreed to accept it. I never did any such thing. Can this guy force me to take an offer I never signed? Responds. Respond 1. You should also understand that not wanting to accept a new position in another state isn't a legally prohibited reason to fire someone, like race or religion, etc. So if the company has decided that the only place they want you is in another position in another state, they can decide to just let you go. Respond 2. I bet money that they have 2 candidates, someone who they want more, and you, the person they want cheap. They probably extended an offer the previous day to the other person who likely declined, but prior to making a counteroffer, decided to try and get you for pennies on the dollar. They're rushing you so they don't lose their preferred hire. It's also possible your recruiters are just bad at their jobs, and the hiring manager is getting frustrated at how slow the process is moving. In my experience, that's insanely common. Ineptitude is commonplace in recruiting departments. Don't sign anything until you've read it and decide if the terms are fair. Respond 3. I don't think you're getting great advice here. This is really down to company policy. Legally, you can't be forced to accept the job. Legally, the company is allowed to fire you if you don't. Legally, you can likely collect unemployment in that scenario. I don't think this is really a legal question. Edit. Many people aren't reading the post. OP says he already works for the company. This is for a new position in a different state. I don't know exactly how his company is structured, but neither do you. Based on the info provided, I think my answer is correct. Respond 4. To me, it looks as though the hiring manager had a hire fall through and is now rushed to get the position filled. I wouldn't be shocked if the offer details are the same as previously agreed upon by the first candidate, and are now what's allocated for regarding the position. If the hiring manager gets you to sign that offer sheet, you're the one that seems unreasonable when you attempt to negotiate terms after all parties agreed to an amount on paper. Best of luck. Story 5. My boss hasn't paid me for 5 weeks of work. What should I do? In April, my dad met a guy who moved into the apartment building next to his workplace. He told my dad he was a millionaire looking to start a business and shoot a movie, so my dad mentioned that I was looking for a job. When my parents told me about the job, I thought it sounded a bit strange but decided to take it, since I hadn't had any luck applying elsewhere. I went to his apartment for an interview where he introduced me to his business partner. They explained they wanted to start a freight brokerage company and needed my help with that, as well as help with his movie. He said my starting pay would be 25 HR and would increase to 50 HR in a few months. I started working for him on April 26. The office was an empty apartment next to his apartment. There was only one other employee there. She had started about 2 weeks before me. She explained the job to me and told me that I needed to look up some YouTube videos about freight brokering and take notes. During the first 2 weeks, April 28, May 9, I spent my time taking notes and finding out what permits we'd need to film in the city. My boss and his partner mostly stayed in the other apartment and only checked on us for a few minutes each day. On the third week, May 12, I was supposed to get my first paycheck, but I found out my boss had gone to England for a funeral and wouldn't return for another 2 weeks, May 26. We still hadn't started any real work, so I asked if I should still come in. He said yes, because we had lots to cover, and promised to sort my paycheck when he returned. During those 2 weeks, he didn't give me any work, so I just browsed the internet. On the 5th week, May 27, my boss returned. His partner asked me for my information to fill out a W-9 form, and I texted him my bank and routing numbers the next day. Later that week, they both stopped showing up to work. It turns out, my boss went on another trip to Virginia, and his partner went to Canada, and they wouldn't be back until June 4. On May 30, I texted my boss about my paycheck. He read it but didn't respond. On Monday, June 2, I went into work and texted his partner again. He said he'd forward my hours to the finance section. The next day, I decided not to go back to work because I was wasting my money on transportation. My boss texted, asking why I didn't show up and if everything was okay. I asked when I'd get paid, and he offered to advance me some money. I asked for at least 3 weeks of pay. He said he'd check with his partner, but never texted me back. On Thursday, June 12, I texted him again. He replied that he'd told his partner to pay my dues ASAP, that their accounting system was almost set up, and I'd get paid on Friday, June 13. That didn't happen. On Monday, June 16, I followed up and said I wouldn't return until I was paid. He said his partner was sick and he'd check tomorrow. I told him that if he's a millionaire, paying me for 5 weeks shouldn't be an issue. He didn't respond. I also texted his partner and got no response. My mum also called him, and he told her I needed to work 30 full days before I'd be paid. He never told me that information before. On Saturday, June 21, he texted that he visited my dad and left $400 for me, calling it a bonus, and that I'd receive my full paycheck in 2 weeks. He also said he was finally ready to start shooting his film. I didn't want to go back, but my parents convinced me. On Monday, June 23, I returned to work and of course we didn't shoot any movie. I just sat at my desk for the whole day. I didn't go back after that. I haven't heard from him or his partner since then. Respond. So you went to work for 4 or 5 weeks without getting paid? Did he truly leave $400 with your dad? Your parents need to get out of your business. From now on, no matter what they tell you to do regarding work, you do not do. Get very adamant to your mum to not give out personal info. File info with the Department of Labor. Consider calling police. Has your dad seen the guy recently? Have they skipped out on rent? Narrator. Yes, my dad gave me the $400 when he came home from work. I don't think my dad has seen the guy in over a week. I'm not sure how he is affording to pay the rent. He rents the 2 biggest apartments in the building on the top floor. The landlord has stopped by a few times, and I was always tempted to ask him if my boss is even paying the rent. Respond. Good luck to you. You learned a hard lesson. Random job offers. Apply for jobs with established places, whether restaurants, school districts, insurance companies, parks, hospitals, etc., retail places with an established name, store or building with products and services which people buy and use. This guy is a con man. If he ever texts you from his so-called trips places, directly say you cannot work for him and you want to be paid, or decide to skip and just block and accept it as a hard lesson. Comment. I had a situation like this happen to me when I was younger. In my case, the guy was buying landscaping supplies at a Home Depot where my friend worked as security. He met my friend and said, "Hey, I'm rich and I'm starting a landscaping company." Then offered to pay something that was higher than average for high school kids. We both interviewed at his mobile home, which was weird, but he basically just asked us some questions and said we were hired. After 2 weeks, he had excuses why he couldn't pay us but promised we'd be paid soon. After another week or two, we were on the job, and he opened his wallet and gave me like $100 and said, I really want to thank you for helping me out so much these past few weeks. Here's something, but don't tell the others I gave it to you. After that, I only went like 1 or 2 more days to work and then started to call him and demand I get paid. We filed with the labor board and other stuff, but they basically just said, really all we can do is send a letter. If they ignore it, there isn't anything else we can do since he's not a registered business. Basically, I took the loss. My friends and I tormented the guy for a few days by showing up randomly at his house, but the novelty of it wore off and we forgot about it. In your case, take this as a learning experience. If something smells like fish, it probably is fishy. Block the guy and try to forget about it. Tell your parents that you won't be working for him and don't talk to him, then tell them to stop giving out your information. I mean this sarcastically. Maybe he already was filming the movie. Maybe you and the girl you worked with just didn't know you were on hidden cameras, like a bad version of The Truman Show. Story 6. Hi everyone. I am looking for some advice or help on my situation here. I was employed by a company for over 2.5 years. I worked hard and gave up a lot for this job. I was only written up once, a verbal corrective, for call avoidance due to my abusive ex, who deliberately would interrupt my calls to try and get me fired, so that I had to rely on him and not be able to survive in my new home. Had just gotten since I had left his and moved with our 3 small children. It also fell off my points after 3 months and I never had issues again. They started laying off people back in December, over 500 people. And there was talk about another layoff happening but not yet confirmed. Due to the December layoff, my department became very strict even though there were only like 15 of us left. Seemed like they were firing people over anything and everything. In March, my grandmother suddenly passed away. I immediately notified my supervisor and took my 5-day bereavement leave as stated in the employee handbook. I also provided an obituary, which was the only thing stated in the handbook that was needed for documentation. I told my supervisor that due to low funds within my family, we would only be having a very small get-together as a memorial for my grandmother because literally all of our money went to her cremation. My aunt also made us just keepsake obituary pamphlets to cut costs. My supervisor asked if there would be an online obituary or a newspaper obituary, and I informed her no, that once again, due to not having the money, we didn't feel like a newspaper posting was necessary because they are pretty costly. But I told my supervisor I could try and come up with the money to do that if that's what I had to do. She said the obituary my aunt had made should be fine and that she would submit it to HR. I only took my 5-day leavening more. My aunt handled everything, and due to a feud between her and her ex, who was close with my grandmother, she requested all information regarding my grandmother's cremation and will be confidential and only discussed with her. Fast forward to a month later, and pulled into a meeting with HR and my supervisor about how I needed to provide additional documentation due to the obituary not being from an actual funeral home. I understood and reached out to my difficult and hateful aunt about anything more she could give me for them. She reluctantly sent me a paper that she received when she picked up my grandmother's remains. That was a cremation confirmation and had my grandmother's name, date of birth, etc. on it. I sent this to my boss. 2 days later, I was pulled into another meeting and told that since the letter of confirmation didn't have a date on it and was only signed by authorized staff from the funeral home, more documentation was needed. She stated I needed to reach out to the funeral home because they had called them and the person they spoke with told them they had no record of my grandmother's cremation. I once again reminded her that my aunt had everything only go through her and that I gave them literally everything I had been provided. My aunt and I actually do not talk to this day because of me having to ask for more and more when we all are just trying to grieve my grandmother's death. I was fired the next day. During my termination meeting, HR and my supervisor both told me that I had amazing work ethic and that they know I will go far in life, blah blah blah. I was hysterically sobbing during this meeting because I did not ever think taking a leave that I thought was provided to me would cost me my job, also because, as stated above, I have 3 small children who rely solely on me as the only income. My employer even encouraged me to apply for unemployment. So I did. And I was denied 10 weeks later for misconduct. I filed an appeal, and my hearing is set for 2 days from now, July. Honest, I am terrified. I have applied to literally over 150 different jobs since I lost mine, knowing being denied was always a possibility. I live in a small town where we don't even have a grocery store, let alone job opportunities or daycare. I was planning on using my employment to be able to have the money to move away due to my abusive ex living across town as well. I provided everything I had access to my employer, so them fighting it makes no sense. My questions are, do I have a shot at winning this, or am I basically out of luck here? Any advice on what to expect? What I can say to help my chances? Anyone else deal with something like this and win their appeal? I have a personal witness to testify for me as well. But I have never dealt with unemployment, and I literally just need help getting out of here with my children, so I can start a better life somewhere else, with actual job opportunities and support with childcare. I never in a million years thought I would lose my job over my grandmother dying. I guess I should have just sucked it up and powered through, but I took my leave like I thought I was allowed to and provided what I had. When I say this has been so stressful, that's sugarcoating it. I am physically sick from stress, my hair is falling out, I am about to lose my car, our utilities have cut-offs for this week. I mentally am not even a little bit okay. Any advice or what to expect with this I seriously would appreciate. Respond. You should continue with the appeal. No one can tell you what your exact chances of winning are, but they're better than zero. Narrator. Thank you. Yes, I plan on doing my phone hearing on the honest and doing my absolute best to win this. I just wanted to see if anyone had any advice on what might help my chances or anything. I've just never done this before, so I am so scared of hurting my chances even more. Story 7. Non-profit I found through my college refuses to pay me after deleting my email. What can I do? Hi everyone. I'm a recent college graduate in Arizona. I was contracted by a non-profit for social media work, including content creation, promoting their pitch night event, and handling outreach. I found the opportunity through my college's career network, so I trusted it would be a safe and professional experience. They previously paid me for work I completed earlier, and I have past invoices that were paid. Toward the end of the project, I was verbally promised payment for an additional 2 weeks of work from May 19 to May 30. I submitted my invoice for that period using the email they provided me, which was branded with my personal hustle name. Shortly after I finished the work, they deleted the email account and removed my access to everything. I no longer have access to the invoice or the conversations from that account. I've followed up, but they have been ignoring me, and I have not been paid. I'll be honest, I'm a new grad, and I didn't know how to properly protect myself as a contractor. There was a formal written contract, just on the accounts I no longer have access to. I completed the work, and they used it, but now they're ghosting me. I still have personal records, invoices of the tasks I completed, and the time I worked. Is there anything I can do about this? Can I take them to small claims court, even without a signed contract? I feel completely taken advantage of and disappointed, especially since this opportunity came directly from my school. Any advice or insight would really mean a lot. Thank you. Responds. Respond 1. Did you use your college email account and lose access at the end of the semester? I am assuming it was Gmail. Or did they provide you with an email on their Gmail business account, then cut you off? First, contact the career office at your college and let them know that this organization should not be on their roster anymore. If they actually hacked your personal email, contact the email provider and report it. If you're lucky, you can get the account back. Then set up two-factor authorization to secure your account. I am wondering if it's the non-profit, or more like some person over there. Either way, it's not nice. Non-profits are rated by Charity Navigator. You can tell which ones are not reputable. You can also research their IRS Form 990 about their financials. Also check their review history on Google. As a contractor, and even for job interviews, all original work is produced in your own account environment, using your own software and your own equipment. Then you make a copy of the work, give it a name, and forward that copy for viewing. Your originals stay with you. Respond 2. I would talk with whoever is running your school's career network stuff, and start by talking to them and letting them know one of the companies you found through them is doing this. Tell them you're going to be getting an attorney involved if you don't receive pay for your work. I'm sure the school can help you handle this or even handle it for you. Respond 3. This is petty, but there's nothing like a well-regarded someone else in the community to publicly call out and praise your work for every instance that they plagiarize it. Respond 4. Might have to conduct a discovery, small claims, to get a copy of the email. Moving forward, make sure to always BCC yourself or take screenshots of important emails. Story 8. My old company signed me up for and used my Amazon Music. So I quit recently, and prior to quitting I had set up an Amazon Echo in the break room. Then 2 months later, I'm charged $5.99 for an Amazon Music subscription of which I was given no knowledge of. From the Googling I've done, it seems by default people are able to make purchases on my account using the Alexa. Update. Thanks for the insight. I'll try contacting Amazon. I did set it up on my own account to see how it worked to tell my boss, but apparently removing the device from the Alexa app is different from deregistering it. Digital orders are non-refundable if the service has been used. Oh well. Responds. Respond 1. I was thinking just contact Amazon and let them know it was a fraudulent purchase, not you. They will likely refund without issue, especially since it's just a music subscription. Getting the company to pay you back directly would probably be unlikely, since they would just claim it was your fault for leaving your own account accessible for placing orders to all employees in the building. I mean, OP left an Amazon Echo in a break room, logged into their personal account, with the ability to purchase items, services enabled. That sounds a lot more like a them problem, and not the company's fault. It's possible that whoever enabled the subscription just thought the company would be charged. Or maybe they thought they were just enabling a trial, who knows? I'm also curious if during setup, maybe OP signed up for a 2-3 month trial unknowingly, and it just converted to a paid subscription after the trial ended. Seems plausible as well. Respond 2. Yeah, that was really dumb to set up your personal account at work. Like, really, really dumb. However, you have no evidence work did it. It was likely just some random person. This is 100% your fault. You can try going to the company and asking for the money, but they're just going to say, no one was under orders to purchase that. Take this as a very cheap life lesson to not mix business and personal. Respond 3. This one is on you. Disconnect that device from your Amazon account. Check your purchase history. And most importantly, learn from this experience. Amazon may be nice enough to refund it if you ask them. Respond 4. You need to cancel the subscription and remove the Echo from your Amazon account. You should never have put a work device on your personal account.